Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Sharonda Huffman. I am the president of the very new Blue and Gold Democratic Club. Today, we are having our first meeting for 2023, and I do welcome you. I will give you the opportunity to talk. I just want to remind everybody I am recording, but I can stop the recording if you would like to say something that you don't want to be said publicly. I just want to acknowledge we're a very new organization. We were started in Baltimore County. However, the purpose of the Blue and Gold Democratic Club is not to just, promote the Democratic Party within Baltimore County, but also the region. So some of our members are in Baltimore City, but we're also seeking new ones. And this is going to be our first meeting. And first meeting of this year, one of the things that I felt that I've always been engaged in politics. That was actually my major in college. However, I never thought about, instead of just supporting candidates, why can't we as a community build more volunteers, be more politically engaged, understand what politics really means. I have to always give credit to my friend, Tiffany Jones. I really didn't understand what this Democratic Central Committee did. I know that sometimes I vote for people when they go to the Democratic Convention, but I really didn't know what they did. So the Central Committee in Maryland, they are like the volunteers for the Democratic Party. They don't necessarily, set the agenda. The DNC, they have their own principles and values. But what I wanted to do is talk about how do we engage different communities. A lot of people, especially in my area, they're kind of like, why do I need to vote? Why do I need to do anything? But, right now we're in a standstill trying to get our House or Congress together. You know what I'm saying? So we have somebody that's in there that just made up stuff. And I just want to get people to have credentials and really, want to help the community. And how do we do that? Well, let's have a better understanding. Let's volunteer. Let's encourage people who are willing to do the work, and let's support them. So that's why we're here. Now, today we're going to talk about equity and how to build diverse communities, community building. So I'm an associate member of the Baltimore County Democratic Party, and I've been asked to do voter registration. That's stuff I do naturally, but sometimes I'm thinking of ways, how can we be have it as a second thought? Like some of us are going to be having parties for our kids when they turn 16. I'm old, so I'm gonna say a party. Let's say your little nieces or nephews. Why can't you have a voter registration party at your little event? Because that's what I did. My daughter, she's in a girl association. They're going to have a little skating party. She has 16 and 17-year-olds. Did you know that you can register a 16 or 17-year-old to vote, even though they won't vote until they're 18? Those are things we want to start doing. So today, and I'm going to have to read, so you might not see me for a second. Today, I have two guests. I'm going to say a little bit about each one of them. Our first guest is Bangura. She's a diversity and equity inclusion officer for a major library. She's an experienced civil rights investigator, risk analysis, and diversity, equity, and inclusion professional. She considers herself an inequity eliminator and has spent her academic and professional career as a social justice advocate and promoter of diversity, equity, and inclusion of all. As diversity, equity, and inclusion officer, she is responsible for leading and overseeing diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts and work that impacts our communities, and the organization's internal structure. She has previously served as a civil rights investigator. She has facilitated settlement agreements, and the largest settlement agreement in the history of the Community Relations Commission in the city of Baltimore. Her work has led to becoming Baltimore City's first equity specialist. She has also facilitated monthly training for other coordinators. She's also been recognized as the International Human Rights Commission in 2019. And also we have, and I'm just so excited because she's a short timer, we have the executive director of the Maryland Democratic Party here. She announced last month that she will not be continuing as the executive director, because she said, I'm only going to give you 4 years. That's what she did. But she has made such a wonderful impact. I told her I am a fan. I really enjoy her leadership. I enjoy seeing a Sister Greg being in charge. I love the way the Democratic Party has evolved. Executive Director Lewis previously was the Northeast Regional Director for the Association of Democratic State Committees at the Democratic. Okay. She also, sorry about that. She has served as a political director for the Maryland Democratic Party, building and implementing statewide political programs and managing the party's political relationships and local committees. She has worked many years as an attorney, grassroots organizer, and political operative, building coalitions and increasing political engagement. Eva is a proud resident of Prince George's County. She graduated from Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia, and Northwestern University School of Law in Chicago, Illinois. When not engaging in the community, Eva also enjoys performing improv comedy in the Washington, D.C. area. So I'm very excited to have both of our guests. So I'm going to allow Ms. Bangura to give us, tell us a little bit about how we can be more equitable in reaching different communities. And give me some of the things that you might have worked on in your work.
Hi, thank you, Sharonda. I wish I would have gave you the condensed version of my bio just now. So I won't be too long. I just really want to speak to y'all about the concept of trusted voices. At the library, that's really what we're working on. We understand that it does, despite the fact that I may look like the community I'm trying to reach because of my position, and I do work for an institution, regardless of the intention of our institution, we become a little bit less of a trusted voice. And so we focus on building partnerships with grassroots organizations, boots on the ground organizations. And we do all of our events that are meant to reach hard to reach communities with organizations that are in these communities and doing work in this community. So for example, we had a community town hall with Nobody Asked Me campaign. Some of you may or may not be familiar with it, but it is a local community organization. It is ran by Larry Simmons and Dr. Richard Lofton at Johns Hopkins University. And they did a survey on youth engagement and why the youth aren't being engaged. And they actually asked 146 or 26 youth directly, why aren't you being engaged? And we had them present, and we had about 15 to 20 youth in the crowd. And granted, we did have to give them $20 gift cards and free food, but they did come in the door, where we expected to have no youth in I was going to say in the building, but that's probably not correct to say. We expected to have no youth attend the event. We had a pretty decent amount, and that is because of the youth organizations that came to the event and brought their youth that participate in those organizations. And so I just really encouraged working with trusted voices in whatever group that you're trying to reach. That is what we are focused on. We are building a community grocery store. It will be Pratt Free Market. It'll be open in our Southeast anchor. And we're really focused on building community engagement through the use of community organizations that care about uplifting the community. So for example, yes, we will work with Maryland Food Bank, but we're also working closely with a lot of local urban farms to get goods from their production, and to also do a lot of educational programming to understand that issues are systemic, and just giving free food is not enough. We also have to do a lot of food education, teaching how to use these foods, and really being engaged. And that's something that we actually did not think of on our own. We thought of that from having meetings with community organizations and asking, how can we be better? And so I do encourage reaching out to those community organizations that are involved in whatever community you're trying to reach, based on whatever demographic you're trying to engage with, and seeing what they think you can do better and how they can help you reach those communities better.
I have a question, just a quick question. So my good friend, She had us take this diversity, equity, inclusion training, and I probably failed the test because sometimes you might face things that you know are inequitable, right? But how do you keep people to think differently? You know, because sometimes I don't even know I have a blind spot. I don't know I have a bias. So in this book, and I got to reread it again, we actually got training by Caprice Hollins, and she talked about how to engage different communities that don't look like you and how to, talk about some of these hard things that nobody wants to talk about, like race and equity. Could you give us some advice on how to, open that door?
So we went through Caprice's training, and that was actually my second time going through that training. She told us to confront things head on, to be uncomfortable in a comfortable place, and not to take things personal. But as you know, and I know, we're just human, right? And so sometimes you can't help it, especially if something triggers you. We all have our trauma. So I think the first step is that when you want to be in a role that is a public role, that is considered a public servant role, that you understand that our role is to serve. And so that you have to find a way to face your own triggers and your own trauma before you engage with the community, so that you're able to take that advice and be uncomfortable and be comfortable in uncomfortable spaces and not take things personal, because we are human. And if you are not yet aware of those biases, of those triggers, then you're not going to be able to engage the community and serve the community in the way that it needs to be served.
Thank you, because I'm just going to be honest. A lot of people are scared to volunteer this go around. In the last presidential election, there was a lot of, things that you didn't expect to happen, and so you're like, okay, I might get called a bad word. Sometimes you have to, look at the environment that you're in and not take things personally. That can be hard, but I think that I'm going to have to reread the book again. Go through another training, and because you don't know how you're going to react until it happens, but you just have to prepare. And sometimes we, as stewards of the Democratic Party, we have to be able to understand where people are coming from, and some people don't know what they don't know. So I want to thank you very much. So if anyone has any questions, they can put it in the chat before she has to go. Or you can raise your hand. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, well, bravo. Thank you so much, Ms. Bangura. I do appreciate you joining us today. And at this time, I would like to give Ms. Lewis the floor, the executive director of the Democratic Party, and I want to, hear more about her experience, diversity, equity, inclusion, how to engage more people, even her personal experience, how to reach others, even when you might be different than everyone you serve.
Yeah, and I think particularly for the Democratic Party, that is a big one, because we are a big tent, right? We go from very conservative Democrats to very, very progressive liberal Democrats, like left to right in terms of our party, and as you can imagine, that is a big spectrum to bring in folks of all different shades and viewpoints. So I think the main thing is to start small. I think with anything that you're doing, particularly if it's something new, that you're coming to a certain group or a certain region, it's just starting small. And so for us, part of that obviously is the work that we do in our larger jurisdictions, like the Big Eight, we call them. And then also like Maryland, we have this island of blue and then surrounded by red, in terms of the majority of the state is rural, even though the majority of the people live in the central part of Maryland. And so I think one is just having those inroads, and particularly for the party, you mentioned the central committees, which are the lifeblood of our party. They are the local Dem party in the jurisdictions. They are the ones that we that go out into their local communities and say why democratic principles are the ones that we want to uphold. And also that's why we want to elect more Democrats up and down the ballot and across the state with it. So here's the thing, it is always challenging work, right? When you're dealing with diversity, equity, inclusion. One, at least the jargon is now more into this space, so people kind of understand a bit of diversity. And then when you get to E&I, then it's like, okay, what are you talking about there? But I know as a party, we're always keeping an eye at that, and you can always improve in terms of that work. So it's an ongoing thing, and I think particularly for our party, it will always be that, because we are a big tent party. We're not a monolith in any kind of way, unlike some of I guess the Republicans right now are not a monolith when you've got 20 people holding the whole process up hostage, but we just want to keep going forward. And I know my 3 years being with the party, we've always tried to do that in whatever the next administration with the party will continue to do that work as well.
Well, how did you become the director? Like, how does someone really interested in politics? Like, I know people wow, Sharonda, they told me I would like to do this because they're in a stage where they can retire, but they can still do stuff. Mm-hmm. How did you come up to be the executive director? What is your background?
Yeah, so my background varies a little bit. So I'm an attorney, right? I'm no longer licensed. I no longer practice. But I went to law school. I went to Northwestern. After law school, I stayed in Chicago for a couple of years working at a law firm. Folks got older, so I decided to move back home. And as I was looking for a job, it was the 2012 Obama campaign. So I was like, oh, let me help out. I was just in Chicago. 2008 was electrifying. Obama is the best. So let me help him to get reelected. And so started out on that campaign. They brought me on as a field organizer. And so caught the bug of politics. And that was my first time being heavily involved in a campaign. And it was a great campaign, and we won. And then after that, was going down this path. So that, I guess it's 10 years, almost 11 years of being on this political path, where I've been into the governor's office for children underneath the Governor Martin O'Malley and his administration. I worked on the 2014 campaign. And then after that, I worked for Mayor Bowser in her community affairs office. And then went into one of her agencies, and then came to the party the first time as a political director. I guess the very first time was as an organizer, but then the second time as a political director, and then working for the DNC, and then now working for the executive director. So, I think for most people, when you think about their career, there's like a zigzag pattern you take. And I don't think, there was never saying hey, I 10 years ago, if I said, ED, I think I barely knew that there was an ED of the party, right, when I was an organizer. But I think it's one, being open to opportunities, and just the more you do the work and you enjoy the work, and you're accomplishing the goals that have been set out in front of you, it has just led me down this path. And I've enjoyed my time. I've learned a lot. I've taken my bruises and gotten back up, but it's been great. And obviously after the year we just had, the election, is fantastic. As you all know, we won everything just about, and picked up seats in the Senate and the House. We kept all of our county executive seats. We all the constitutional seats were open: governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, comptroller. We made historic gains in all of those seats with Westmore and Aruna Miller, right? Our first Black governor in Maryland, the third Black governor in the United States, first woman comptroller, first Black attorney general. So all these big milestones, it's really nice to be a part of that team and to support Democrats who I know are going to do the good work moving forward. So that's a short way of saying that that hook and crook and got to this position here.
Well, before I ask you another question, does anybody else have any questions they'd like to ask? You can take yourself off of mute. Because I just wanted to also acknowledge, oh, go ahead. I think Ann's taking herself off of mute. Ann George, did you have a question?
I didn't have a question, but as a member of the Central Committee in Baltimore County, I want to say that Eva has done an outstanding job in 3 years bringing this party together. at all levels. And I've been impressed with the great team down there, and we're going to miss you, Eva. I just couldn't say anything more. I think from a person who's benefited from her leadership of the party, and seeing how central committees and how I came in 2000, I was elected to Central Committee in 2014, and I didn't really know what to expect, but it seemed like things were a bit in disarray there, but they brought it together, and we really pulled off this statewide elections this year. I couldn't be more pleased, and even saved, a lot of the national things. And, I encourage all of you here to get involved in the central committees in your area. We need leadership. We need people that have skills of any kind. Even if you just want to register people to vote, or you want to help with a fundraising event, or do party building. There's so many ways that you can have an effect on and contribute to the Democratic Party and really being part of it. And we need to convince more of our non-voters to vote, and a lot of our voters to become more active. But thank you, Eva. I just wanted to recognize you as in terms of your contributions. And I don't know how they're going to replace you. Have they found a replacement?
I think we're close. Yes.
Okay.
Excellent. No, thank you so much, Anne. And as you know, it is not easy work, and particularly because Central Committee members are volunteers, right? They have decided, to say, hey, I'm going to step out there and I'm going to help my community, my jurisdiction. And so I appreciate it wholeheartedly, and I will miss it for sure. But whoever comes in next, they've got a great party, and there's, as we all know, right, and Anne and other Central Committee members know, there's always more work to do. Right? Yep. Even when you're doing great work, even after this election we just had, there's more that we can do. So the more is let's get more seats in the General Assembly. Let's get more seats at the local level, these nonpartisan races, a county council, county commissioners, all this stuff. There's always more and more that you can or shoot for and go after. But thank you so much, Anne.
You're welcome. I just want to add that one reason I'm here is that I think diversity is extremely important. As we move. We really need unity in these central committees. And I don't know how other central committees work, but I think we have a unity dinner every year. And I feel like we need to find unity through diversity, because without that, we don't have a sense of unity, all working for the same thing. There's, you know what I mean? There's issues we need to deal with, but I do appreciate that.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Now, I have a question, Eva. So we talked about diversity. Could you let us know about those diversity councils the state party has? And do you have to be on the central committee to be involved? Because my understanding is anybody can be part of it. So how can we get more people to volunteer? And tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So you brought up our diversity leadership councils. We call them DLCs for short. These are basically our caucuses, our affinity groups. And so there are 9 of them. And they range from the African American DLC, Continental Africans, LGBTQ plus, Latino, veterans, persons with disabilities, seniors,
Asian Pacific Islanders.
Yes, API, yes, as well as progressives. And so all these 9 DLCs represent these affinity groups who act like are the liaison between the party and those groups out in the community, out throughout the state. And so their jobs are, and also those DLC chairs sit on our executive committee, which meets 6 times a year, every 2 months. To discuss the business of the party. They give reports about what they're doing. The DLCs themselves meet once a month with our organizing director or political director or myself to go over what they're doing. I should also say that we are looking for a new Continental Africans DLC director. So if you'd like to apply for that, check that out. It's on our it's not on our web, it should be on our website, but definitely on our social media, we have links to it. But you can also always just email me and I can send it to you if you have folks who may be interested in that position. And so these chairs have their groups, their executive committee, and they go out into the community and they could do a variety of things, right? Because they're doing like voter outreach, voter education, general body meetings. They can do events, particularly like our AAPI for the past definitely the past 2 years, because of the pandemic, we did virtual events. And then we are starting to get back into live in-person events. Of course, for Black History Month, we did virtual events, so we'll be getting back into live events and that sort of thing. And so it's just an opportunity to say, hey, this is important to the party. We want to hear from folks, and we want more and more folks need to join these DLCs. And so the chairs are the ones who are leading that effort to make that happen. So, but in terms of volunteering, I think, I go back to this I think this is a building year, right? Because it's not an election year for us, right? In 2024, we'll have the presidential. But right now, as we gear up for the presidential, this is the time for Dem clubs such as yourself and central committees and other folks to start getting out there and getting people to come into the organization and having like voter registration drives, which are kind of an easy, I shouldn't say easy, but are one entryway into getting people to come out and volunteer. And then you can get out into voter education, particularly if you have local elections, municipal elections that are happening this year as well. So there's always something to do. And I think people shouldn't get overwhelmed. It should just take, one bite of the apple and go from there to see how you can make a difference in your community.
So I started getting hooked up with Mobilize. Mobilize is an opportunity for people to engage, even for people outside of Maryland. Like they have different groups that's, talking about voter rights and having opportunities where you learn the history of voting. Yep. So could you tell us about how you get connected with Mobilize? And I can, put it in the chat or something like that, because a lot of times you could just be a virtual person, and when you're ready, come out and participate. So could you tell us a little bit about your the Mobilize and how there's different events for depending on what you're interested in?
Yeah, so Mobilize is a third-party vendor that many state parties and definitely the Maryland Democratic Party uses and other organizations use. So when we have events, we will put that up on Mobilize. And for us, our Mobilize is embedded into our website. So our website is mddems.org. And so if you go there, you will see our events. As we gear up for this year, you probably won't see a lot because we're gearing up and getting going. But as the year progresses, if we're having trainings, if we're doing voter outreach, if there's a general body meeting for one of our DLCs, all that will be on our website underneath the Mobilize platform. And so Mobilize is just an easy way to, like, when you sign up, you get like text alerts and emails and reminders. And it's a way for us to track those volunteers or people who sign up for the events. And so if you have an event, particularly like our central committees, we'll put that on our Mobilize as well, so that folks know what is there. There's the website, check it out, mddems.org. Also, you should sign up for our monthly newsletter. We will start, we were doing a weekly newsletter up through the election. Now we are going to monthly. We may increase that, or whoever's the next iteration of MDB may increase that. But for right now, we're just going to have a monthly newsletter. But when you sign up for the newsletter, you also sign up for our email list. So like if there is something where we don't want to wait for our monthly newsletter and we want to get it out, such as like next Tuesday, January 10th, we are having a fundraiser. It's our legislative luncheon. It's an annual event that we're having. And so it's the day before the legislative session starts. And it's just a way to like rah, hear what the Democrats are going to get done for the state of Maryland. And so we've done that. And so I was just saying, yeah, so in terms of Mobilize and like being involved, and if you're on social media, we are on Twitter, I guess, for right now, and then Facebook and Instagram. We're also on TikTok. If you're a TikToker, we do that as well. So there are many ways to get plugged in and to be aware of what the party is doing, because those are all the mediums that we would send out information to let people know.
Now, I know you said you use a separate device for TikTok because people don't like TikTok anymore because they said, it's corrupt. But you do have you did say you have a different device you're using for the TikTok. Now, I'm about to do a lightning round of a couple questions. Okay, so I know you are HBCU graduate. I know you're a member of the Divine Nine organization. So how do you use those groups to, of course, they have to be nonpartisan groups, but how do you get your group to come together like in different organizations, say, hey, come along, let's go ahead and, we have similar views. How do you get people to be more engaged if you're in other organizations, but they can't necessarily say they're a Democrat, but you can do stuff outside of that organization because you are a person. So could you tell me a little bit about that, how you mobilize your tribe?
Yeah. And so, in terms of like Spelman, like a college, like that's easier because you can just send out information, and if they want to send it out, they can do that. The thing with the Divine Nine, with the sororities and fraternities, there are legal parameters that you cannot, they cannot engage. So it is very difficult to like send out something that's Democrat. Here's the thing. I think the sororities and the fraternities know what they can do and can't do, and so they'll decide how they can go about doing that. But usually they can't be partisan, because they'll be endangering their status. But here's the thing: there are always groups everywhere, right? And so I think for us, the central committees are a big part of that network. Obviously, a Dem Club like yourself, Blue and Gold, right? It's a group that we can work with. There are other organizations like I'm going blank, but there are a lot of other Dem organizations around the state, like Do the Most Good. That's the one I was looking at. Do the Most Good, and there's like Silver Spring Progressives, and there's women's clubs, their local city Dem clubs, and all across the state that are doing the good work, and we can easily work with them. One, because you've identified yourself as a Dem club, and promoting democratic events, and we want that engagement because you're touching people that may not be in the Democratic Party, or like in terms of they may not be signed up for our newsletter or signed up on our social media, but they may be signed up with you. And so like learning more about us through you is a good way of getting more and more people engaged and ready to do the good work to get Democrats elected.
Now, what has been the most rewarding experience as being the executive director?
Oh, I guess, you know what, it is the people. I meet fantastic people all across the state. When I was political director, and even before when I was an organizer, I've always enjoyed people, and I've enjoyed the work and determination. And even when you like folks may bump heads a little bit, the thing is, like, I know at the core of it is that the folks, the end destination is getting Democrats elected, right? And there are many ways to get there, and I think working with folks to get that done. And then getting through this pandemic, which was a lot. I started February 2020 when we were just all naive that this thing was coming, and then March came, and it shut down, and all the plans that we had laid out needed to change, and we changed with it. So that also was just a great exercise in like being flexible, and not letting the show stop, or to be safe in what we could do virtually, and going from there. So I think it's the people aspect of it, and obviously winning is very nice as well.
Okay, my last question is going to be recorded. Can you tell me a little bit about your improv and how we can see you?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I love a shameless plug. Yes. So I've been doing improv since 2009. I took my first class in Chicago at Second City when I was studying for the bar. It was a great release. My friend and I took it, and I've been keeping up with it ever since. My next show is going to be Friday, January 13th. At 9:30 p.m. It's with the Washington Improv Theater, and it's located at the Studio Theater on 14th Street in Northwest DC. And so this one is a special show because I'm going to be participating in a improv tournament. And so my team is called Skeleton Key, and we will be performing as four of us. And improv is just a lot of fun. So if you want to buy a ticket, it's at witdc.org. January 13th at 9:30 p.m. Skeleton Key is my team. The audience votes for who moves on. So that's why you need your friends and family to come out and vote for you. And then one thing is, so that improv I've been doing since 2009, and I'll keep doing it till the wheels come off, because it's my fun hobby. In fact, I'm going to start teaching a class in a couple weeks with Washington Improv Theater with WIT. But I should also mention I'm on several teams. But one duo I'm part of is called White Privilege and Black Power, where it's myself and a white guy named Greg Tyndale. We've been doing it since 2016, where we ask each other questions, get an honest response, and then do improv scenes based off of that response. So like one example was like one of the very first questions I asked Greg was like, do you ever look in the mirror and just thank God you're a white man? And so he gives a response, and then we do scenes, and we've done some DEI work in terms of the corporate world as well with that. So going into a work environment, getting questions anonymously or not from the workers, employees. And then what we're doing is just, making it more accessible, some very serious topics that come along. So improv is my big thing, is my big hobby. And if you're able to come on out, and if 9:30 is not too late for you, come on out to Washington Improv Theater, witdc.org at 9:30 p.m. and vote for Skeleton Key.
Did you say Watts, WHAT, then DC?
It's Washington Improv Theater, so WIT, so WITDC.org.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Put that in the chat. Okay,
yeah.
I want to thank you, and I'm going to stop the recording, see if anybody else had any questions. So let me find the record button, stop recording.